Give them a shot to do what?
All right, guys, thanks for joining us with another episode of High Spot Podcast. We are HSP. I'm Jeff Martin, alongside my tag team partner, the Trendsetter, and we are on Give Us a Shot Network here on YouTube. Make sure you like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell to make sure you don't miss a single episode of HSP on Give Us a Shot. You can also listen to us on all podcast platforms, on iHeart, on Apple Podcasts, wherever you want to listen to podcasts. HSP is available. So if you can't watch us, listen to us. There's a lot to discuss today, so we're going to get it right into it. But first and foremost, Trendsetter, how you doing, brother? How is everything going today? Obviously, a thrilling NXT roadblock that we're going to discuss, but how's everything going, man? The weather's getting better in the East Coast, though, right? Got to put a smile on your face there.
That definitely puts a smile on my face, but honestly, man, like I said, this is my favorite time of year. So many twists and turns, unlike last year to a certain degree and from years prior where this road to WrestleMania and this road to stand and deliver for NXT is now really unpredictable. So I'm really excited about it, excited to talk to you about it. And man, what a night for NXT, for Raw. What a night for New York City, Madison Square Garden.
Yeah, it was right in the neck of our woods, too. So obviously, it's a big night in New York City. Obviously, every time you put New York and WWE or any kind of wrestling, it's big time. So we'll get to all of that as Pro Wrestling invaded New York this past week. But let's start off with NXT Roadblock. And, obviously it was you could say it was a PLE worthy kind of event too. Obviously, it was big time. And obviously we saw Giulia and Stephanie Vaquer, which was the highlight of the night, but obviously other great matches as well. But let's get into that. We have a double champion, and I really thought that it was going to be nothing more than like people getting in there, because I didn't think they were going to do that. But then when you see what was going on with Giulia, you were like, okay. But I said to you an interesting point before it really sunk in that Giulia was indeed injured. And I was telling you that leading into this, I was just getting this vibe. And from the beginning, when Stephanie made her debut, I was telling you, man, she's a little bit more relatable with the fans than Giulia is. And not knocking Giulia, because I was excited when she came in. I thought this was going to be, the end-all, be-all. And she is to an extent, but you go back to when we were there live at Forbidden Door in Long Island, and we saw Stephanie Vaquer and Mercedes Moné. We came out impressed by her, and this is the first time we had seen her. We had heard of her in the lead-in to that event, and then she totally knocked us off our feet, and she did the same thing for Shawn Michaels and Triple H, because they were on the phone immediately, and they tried to get her. She was offered big-time money by AEW, but she chose to chase her dream, and that was WWE NXT. And so she's there. And from the second she was there, she just seemed a little bit one step ahead of Giulia. And when she won, you asked me before, all right, who you got? And obviously I was saying, nah, Giulia's got this here. Obviously this is going to be her night. And it wasn't. And I said to you afterwards, yeah, man, there's a more relatability with Stephanie Vaquer than Giulia right now. Plus, you add the injury, and it was a heck of a match. So it was sad to see someone lose, but Stephanie Vaquer is now a double champion. She is the North American Women's Champion and the NXT Women's Champion. So congratulations to her. But any those thoughts that I just had, did you pick up on any of those vibes when she started in NXT? Or is it something that you were like, no, she's neck and neck, or was Giulia ahead of Stephanie Vaquer in your eyes?
Listen, I think the hype for Giulia was amazing. Stephanie's was, I don't think, at that level in the beginning. Where I think personally and again, hindsight's 20/20 here, because I hate to be a booker in this sense. I'm just kind of giving off how I feel about the whole situation, though. But I think with the hype and the excitement of Giulia appearing at NXT, challenging Roxanne Perez, and then for the very first challenge, her first time challenging for the NXT Women's Championship, to lose, I think surprised a lot of people. I can understand for a fact you wanted to do that because, again, you didn't want to make it be so predictable, so simple. You wanted Giulia as much as she was bolstered as this dominant force coming from Japan, something you've never seen before. Had to learn that WWE style to a certain extent. I would say her first match wasn't the greatest with Roxanne. Second one was, but I think at that point I felt like some momentum had been lost in that extent. With Stephanie, it seemed like from the moment she debuted, which was kind of a little bit lackluster, they knew who she was, but didn't know what to expect. I think what happens is when you have an individual like Giulia who has such high expectations, you didn't say it yourself, right? Just the end all be all in the sense of how they're presenting her. And Stephanie comes in with basically no expectations, nothing to expect from, like, hey, here's your opportunity, make a good showing of it. She surpassed that beyond it. There's no pressure on her as opposed to the pressure that was on Giulia. I'm not using that as an excuse, but it's just the reality. There's no way Giulia was ever going to live up to it, despite the fact that there was also a language barrier separating the two. Same for Stephanie, but at the same time, people relate to Stephanie more. So during the match, as the introductions came in, and you mentioned this before too, like the way they were promoting Roadblock, I saw a lot more of Stephanie promoting this than Giulia. And I'm thinking, if Giulia is your women's champion, she's the face of your women's division, why isn't she being promoted more? Why is she making the rounds? Why is she doing the promotional tours around New York as Stephanie was? Then the match happened, and that crowd was just hot for Stephanie. And when they did the introductions, a huge roar for Stephanie when her name was introduced. And Giulia, there was a cheers there, but not as much. It was a little bit lukewarm, if at best. So I had a feeling that was going to happen. But, WWE being, obviously we're in different regimes nowadays, but still being the machine that it is, sometimes it likes to push through that and be like, you know what, the crowd still isn't in favor of Giulia, but we're still going to keep pushing through it, making her a fighting champion. I didn't know anything about, I knew she was dealing with injuries. I didn't know the shoulder was going to require surgery. I knew that later on after the match, but I still think as much as Giulia should have been victorious in this and continued on, despite the injuries, I think the right girl won. And I think Stephanie, in a way, has surpassed Giulia. And now it's going to be a scenario where she's going to have surgery. She's going to have to take some time off, obviously. How do you repackage Giulia? Do you have to repackage her is the question.
Yeah, well, I mean, we'll find out about the shoulder surgery and see if it becomes official. We'll see if she's got to do therapy on it. But I want to go back to where you said about no expectations around Stephanie Vaquer. I believe that it was more like you get one shiny new toy, and you're waiting for that to happen. Obviously, at Stand and Deliver, when you saw Giulia being presented to the crowd, this was the new shiny toy. This was the new face of NXT. Triple H believed it. That was all the hype. We saw William Regal sitting next to her. So the hype was real. Everyone was psyched when they saw that picture of her when she was in Philly for WrestleMania weekend. So the hype was there. And obviously, people saw the footage from Japan, and this was it. This was a shiny toy. And then we get to May, and then you get that Forbidden Door, and then HBK sees another shiny toy. And here's the comparison. You get two great toys, and I'm not going to say there's no expectations on Stephanie Vaquer, but I think that everyone had their eyes focused solely on Giulia, that Stephanie was kind of like, okay, go out there. We know you can shine, but we're really focusing on this person right here. And Stephanie Vaquer just was like, you know what? I'm going to show you, and you got what you got. I don't think that it was it was, I guess you were saying it was like a kind of lackluster opening. I think from the second she came out, people were feeling her, and they were actually, relating to her.
We saw Madison Square Garden, though.
I get it, but I think that she still had hype coming in. I don't think it was like, oh, she's there, and I think they kind of knew. So I think they were looking forward to her. So I think she had a good showing too, obviously. And so I think that I don't think that I think there was a hype, but I just don't think it was as big a hype as with Giulia. And then over time, then you saw that, hey, listen, Stephanie Vaquer is, if not, on an equal par with Giulia. And for some reason, she just related. And they're both great people. They're both funny. They got great personalities. But I just think Stephanie's personality just outshined Giulia to begin with. I'm not saying it's the end, but I'm just saying that right now, Stephanie Vaquer, she has this presence. She has this look. She looks like a champion. She's got this baby face look to her. And I think that she is, you could say that she's, besides the language barrier, she's ready to go if you wanted to call her up. But obviously, she is now your NXT double champion, title for title. We'll see what happens with Giulia. Does she need to be repackaged? We were talking about this too. Stephanie Vaquer, to me, is a flat-out baby face, where Giulia could be a heel and maybe she comes back and she chases as a heel and betrays Stephanie Vaquer because maybe the time away will make her realize, hey, you guys forgot about me, and now I'm coming back, and this person that was my friend has taken all my thunder. So I could see that where she comes back as a heel. She is the more believable heel. She's done it in Japan, and I just think that she would thrive in that. So I would try to do that as well, just to revitalize her look. But listen, the presence is there, the wrestling is there. Let's talk about the in-ring. Boy, they've only wrestled one time before prior, but they're friends. And boy, they clicked, man. There were some great sequences there. It was a very entertaining match. We kind of wish it would have been given 5 more minutes to give Vaquer her due towards the end, but they got everything in there. And you were saying it's a little bit rushed right as they're about to close. But, I mean, what more you could say about this match? This match was terrific, dude. I mean, you're happy because both of these are going to be the future of your company, and the future is bright.
Listen, there's no question that when it was over and you're following social media, you saw Sean congratulating both women. Giulia, obviously emotional in terms of kind of the unknown, obviously losing the title, being dethroned, but maybe a little bit happier for her friend Stephanie. Stephanie was also very emotional as well. Sean hugging them both. Listen, there's a scenario here, and if I were to try to be someone who compares certain things, there's just certain individuals that we watched in pro wrestling, Jeff, that when they touch, they just click. They've worked overseas before, maybe once or twice, but it just works. And with Stephanie and Giulia, it's the same thing. I related to, again, and people are going to be, how I could compare the two. I'm not comparing it side by side. I'm just saying the feeling I get when I see these two in the ring, like a Brett and Sean, for example. You just know you're going to get magic, and these two just have great chemistry with one another. Maybe it helps that they're friends. Who knows? The old adage is when you're with your friend, you go just as hard, you're just as stiff, but it just works, and it does. You hope you had 5 more minutes, but that wasn't the case. But again, just amazing time in the ring watching them. Whenever I see Stephanie and Giulia, I'm never going to complain, and not just from a look standpoint, but from a match standpoint. You're going to get great storytelling there, and that's what we got there. Again, whether the injury was a factor to this, I even told you prior to this, and I'm always the one that say, hey, do you save this? Do you not? And then the mindset comes in with certain people that, listen, why are you going to save anything? Let's just go right now. I think there's a balance between the two. I would have loved to have seen this at Stand and Deliver. I thought there was the buildup for that where Stephanie could have maybe lost the title in between. It would have been one-on-one. I don't know how much the double champion makes sense in a way, but again, hey, listen, I was going for, I was like, you know what? Surprise me. Show me what you got. And we had a great match, an amazing ending. And like I said before, I think the right woman won.
I get the fact that you always say, hey, you're making a great point about, hey, shouldn't this be saved for a PLE or Stand and Deliver? I believe that was something that they thought about, but maybe with this possible injury that Giulia has, they're really, now let's get it now. Let's put the title on somebody, make it red hot. Could they have put the title on somebody else, the North American Championship? I think it would have been too complicated for now. And I think by bolstering Stephanie Vaquer as this dominant force, I think one of their toys now is going to get presented well. But I think to that, there's a thing where Triple H said that, hey, listen, man, we can't just wait everything for WrestleMania. Everything is a WrestleMania now. Everything is this and that, and you can't judge the future. You can't hold something for so long because you want to get to there. We've got SummerSlams. We've got, all these other PLEs. And for NXT, they've got these other PLEs. So I get the fact that you wanted to do for Stand and Deliver, but that's not the case. We got it in New York City. If you're going to put it in there, you're going to put it in the Mecca. You're going to put, and I can't believe it says Mecca here. I bought in, but you're going to put it in New York City, right? So that was a good job. It showcased NXT. The rating, they got back to a good rating and everything, but if any show is going to do a higher rating, it was going to be this one too, because you also saw TNA talent as well. You saw the Hardys take on Axiom. You saw Nathan Frazier and Axiom too. A really good match where I think it shows you that this partnership between TNA and WWE is healthy right now, because we saw the Hardy Boyz walk away still TNA Tag Team Champions. We're obviously going to see this match again, and probably for the NXT Tag Team titles, where maybe Axiom gets their win back. And we might see we might see another one, the third match as well. But I think it's a very healthy relationship, and it's good for the Hardy Boyz, as I believe they're going to eventually come back to WWE, or they're going to have one final run with the company. But just all in all, though, when you see the opening matchup, where you see people yelling TNA and NXT all together, and it's a healthy relationship where one company's not trying to bury the other. It's trying to be an equal platform for both. This is probably one of the best partnerships that I've seen between two companies where both companies are thriving.
Listen, there's no doubt I agree that it tries to be an even equal playing field. But let's be honest, if anyone's going to come out top, it's going to be WWE, or in this case, NXT, right? But the way they're doing it is, in the sense, hurting TNA. Now, to your point, right, the tag team title match, Hardy Boyz, or should I call them Hardy Men, actually did a really good job, and it looks like they found the fountain of youth for a short period of time.
Hardy
But
has, at least, good God, that was like a 2008 version of Jeff Hardy. People were saying he looks really good, and I'm glad that he's got his life back together and he looks healthy. And do you think there's going to be one final run for the Hardys in WWE?
I think so. I think there is. There's opportunity there. I don't think, if this partnership hadn't happened, I don't think we're going to get a final run. But with this partnership and the way it's working, I think it does make sense. We'll get a final run for the Hardy Boyz in WWE in some capacity. Some could say this is their final run, in a sense. They're on WTV, although they're part of TNA. I think this partnership is amazing just because it seems like both groups and both organizations are working collectively together. We had Oba Femi and Moose, which we'll talk about in a few as well. But like, again, the combination of it just works so well, where neither one seems to be trying to take advantage of the other. And ultimately, who ends up really enjoying this whole thing, Jeff, is us, the fans. We enjoy it.
Oh, no
It's
doubt,
great.
man.
It also proves the fact, too, to the point where I always say this all the time, right? Past regimes, maybe that wouldn't be the case, right? But I think in this new era of WWE that we're living in right now, I think the collaboration, I think it's a good thing. And it should happen more and more, because it allows creativity on both ends. It allows flexibility as well, because there's only so much time on NXT. There's only so much time on TNA for certain talent to be brought up, either from the Performance Center or from the indie scene. So to have this, you have the ability of people who are, for example, are not being used on NXT right now, can be used on TNA television, and vice versa. On TNA can be used on NXT. So I think it just opens the door to so many more possibilities, that not in terms of fantasy matchup bookings, but in terms of being able to tell stories cross promotionally, works best for them. It's what's best for business, as they say.
And of course, you've got like TNA Sacrifice coming up. You've got other PLEs coming up, pay-per-views for them coming up in the summertime in big venues. And if you look at the attendance of TNA right now, it is really good for them. And that's what you want to see. And I think that, again, it's very healthy, this partnership, at least for the beginning. And this is how it should work. This is both companies here who are putting an excellent product out there. And I think the best thing for TNA is that, hey, you're looking at these guys here, and you're like, oh, they're still there. Oh, this is where the Hardy Boyz went. Okay, Moose, you get your first opportunity for some people, from some WWE fans, look at Moose and be like, whoa, this guy is just as big as Oba Femi here, and this was like a dream match for these guys. And so they're doing that. And when you look at the attendance and you look at the popularity of TNA, they decided to go to these bigger venues in the summertime, and it's due because of the publicity from the promotion of WWE. So kudos to them, and kudos to the partnership. And we'll get to Oba and Moose in shortly. But then Jordynne Grace and Roxanne Perez, another good match. And Jordynne Grace gets a victory too. She's obviously going to be a major stable, formerly of TNA. She'll be a major part of now NXT in that women's division, which is stacked. And we'll see if Roxanne Perez moves on. But again, this was a match due to Cora Jade's injury that we didn't get to see her perform. So it was Roxanne. And so Jordynne Grace takes that next step. Then we see Moose and Oba Femi go at it. And man, this was a match that delivered, and you can see that it wasn't one person dominating the other. It was very equal, something that you probably wouldn't see a few years back. Moose got his stuff in, Oba got his in, but at the end of the day, Oba Femi getting that nod too from The Undertaker before that. Obviously, this is the guy. This is the next guy that Triple H has seen, and this is going to be the future of WWE. But good to see him get the victory. But then again, Moose doesn't look bad either. So a good matchup there. Your thoughts on that matchup?
Listen, I believe it delivered in all aspects of it, in terms of the anticipation of this, the way it was built up to this particular moment. I think both guys did an amazing job showcasing their talents and what they can do. The crowd was into it. And here's the also cool thing about this whole partnership, too. It's that you had chance of TNA, you have chance of NXT. The crowd knows both and appreciates both. And that's what you want, really. And that creates the excitement and creates that level of energy in an arena that you can vicariously hear it and feel it through the TV as well. I think it delivered on all aspects of it. I doubt it will be the last we see these two going one-on-one against each other. But for the first time ever, something like this happening, I think they hit a home run with it, in my opinion.
It was a great night. And then Ethan Page and Javon Evans, obviously they have a lot of vested interest in Javon Evans. He, again, is the future. They love him, gets his payback, his retribution against Ethan Page. Ethan Page, a tremendous job as well. He took a couple of shots and, lived to tell about it. And then I guess the Shield 2.0 came out and attacked Javon Evans after that. I'm not sure how I feel about them.
Is that what they're calling them? The Shield 2.0?
No, I think that's what the IWC is calling them, the Shield 2.0, and you can see the similarities to them, although it's 4 of them, I believe. I guess I have to see more of them. I guess I'm just not sold yet. I just think it's 4 guys put together because I don't know any of them backstories.
Don't know their story.
Yeah. So I'm just like, okay, like why are these guys put together? All we are seeing them is beating down NXT talent. So we'll see what happens there. We saw Ricky Saints, formerly Ricky Starks, and he looks like he's going to fight Ridge Holland next week.
Stu, relax.
They're gonna get the Rhino back out.
Wow.
Every time you're sad, do a Stu Hart and you'll feel better. I can promise you that. We'll see Ricky Starks and Ridge next week on NXT. And then Stephanie Vaquer and Giulia delivered, and obviously it was sad to see Giulia there, emotional. And again, we just wish her the best. We'll find out what happens, with her. What is her medical situation? Hopefully, it doesn't need to go under the knife. But if it's going to be something prolonged and she's going to be off TV for a bit, it'll be interesting to see what they do. And I think by bringing her back as a heel, I think it would be a beneficiary for her because just the crowd loves Stephanie Vaquer. And so I think that
they love Giulia too, but I think in Giulia's defense as well, Jeff, I think to your point, if she takes some extended time off, I think it would be beneficial for her. Not when I say repackage, I don't mean completely start from scratch again, but I think when Giulia had the momentum she had and the buildup coming in, I think it's really hard to force people to like you in a way because like people would be vindictive, like, oh, like they're all behind Giulia here, and there might be some built up resentment, but you could use that to your advantage. Now, again, guys, it's just speculation. I don't think, I don't know if they're going to do that or not. To me, it would be cool because she did get some booze when she used.
We're speculating here. This is
how I would do it. The IWC, they're going to be like, oh, you guys can't be booking it, but we're not booking. We're just giving ideas of what might happen here. Because when Giulia stole Stephanie's move and reversed it on her, which is the move that everybody loves, you got some booze there. So it's like, hey, there's something here to work with. There's a possibility there, which I think would be great for Giulia.
No doubt. Totally agree with that. That's what I would do for the moment, too. And obviously, though.
I'll never hate her, though. I'm in love with Giulia.
She's so nice, too. So, obviously, look, the future, though, is bright for these two females. They're going to be in tons of WrestleManias down the road. They are surefire, can't miss when they move on to the main roster. But let's enjoy them while they're in NXT, right? Let's not look forward to it. Let's just enjoy in a speedy recovery to Giulia. All right, so NXT Roadblock, to us, in our opinion, really was very solid, a very good show. The ratings increased for that. And obviously, last week people were saying the ratings went down. That's because the president was talking. For a long time, by the way, but he was talking. So we didn't see NXT in the New York markets and Chicago markets. So that's why the rating was a little bit lower than normal. So good for NXT. They didn't hit 1 million, though. So a lot of people thought that would happen, but we'll see what happens. The way you count ratings now, it's very difficult. So, but a good job all in all. NXT on CW delivered. Roadblock was a hit. All right, Trendsetter, we go to Monday Night Raw, and I'll be honest with you, it was a show where, again, yes, the ending was tremendous, There were some decent spots, but I thought it was kind of underwhelming, especially a Raw from Madison Square Garden. I was hyped up from the beginning, and it was kind of just like, okay, and then just waiting for the steel cage match because that's what I wanted to see. And we kind of had an idea last week that we talked that we'd see Roman Reigns, and we did. But was it a little bit underwhelming, Raw, in your opinion? Not that everything has to be okay, but it is WrestleMania season. So you are kind of anticipating some more developments coming into, especially a show in New York City. Not everything is going to be a home run, but it is New York City MSG. Were you a little underwhelmed with Monday Night Raw this past week?
Listen, the build-up for it was great. I think the opening segment with Jey Uso the crowd was hot. They were into it. Did it underdeliver? I guess you could say that. I mean, honestly, I wouldn't say Raw was a show to like go, oh my God, I can't believe that happened type of thing. I think you're going to get that a lot with us in this road to WrestleMania because as much as it was build up, it's been a while since they've been to Madison Square Garden. I get it. The crowd was in it. I don't know towards the end they were. I think that steel cage match did help out ending the show on a positive note, in my opinion, at least, because the match itself was really good. And then you had the return of Roman Reigns. Wow, going through the crowd. Can you imagine the crowd going crazy, seeing Roman go in there and then attacking both guys? And now you are left with the questions like, well, what's going on here? What's going to happen? Is Roman going against Seth? Is he going against CM Punk? What's going on between Punk and Paul Heyman, the wise man and the tribal chief? So it wasn't a home run. It wasn't knocked out of the park. But I think, I mean, with the same expectations here we had for Roadblock and NXT, this one here, yes, there's a lot of hype build up for it. Was the hype maybe overbuilt that it wasn't going to live up to it? I don't know. But in my opinion, it was a good show. It wasn't a great one. There are a lot more to come along. I understand the preferences to, hey, it's Madison Square Garden, it's MSG, it's New York City. But still, I still feel the whole time in New York for the WWE and NXT was successful. So, no, it wasn't one of their best. But again, it wasn't a terrible show either.
All right, so let's run down a few things that happened on there. And let's talk about, to me, one thing that I don't want to see happen is that Chad Gable becomes a fool. And I there's always room for comedy in pro wrestling. And Chad Gable has proven that he can do good comedy. And he's been a good trooper for the company when he's needed to be in that comedic role. But we were starting to take him seriously towards last year, and we were in that underdog role, and we thought, hey, maybe him and Gunther would have been a great matchup at WrestleMania, where Chad Gable gets the victory, in that match with Gunther. But they went with Sami Zayn, which was fine. It was a great match. But then he re-signed, and then it's been kind of like, okay, we're still waiting for a real solid feud with Chad Gable. And he's very giving, and a lot of people feel comfortable with Chad in the ring. That's why he's always going to have a role. But this role where he goes to Mexico, to solve Lucha Libre and Luchadors, and then you're doing this whole Max thing where clearly it was him, but then you get another person in the back as Chad, as the American Luchador with the mask. It's all to me like Elias-y stuff, and I'm like, yes, it's funny, but don't beat it to death. Or we're gonna go for weeks and weeks and weeks into this, man. I just feel like Chad Gable deserves a little bit better.
Listen, Chad Gable's the ultimate utility guy.
Exactly.
Whenever you need him to do something, whatever it is, he's gonna do it to the best visibility. And as obnoxious sometimes as it was for him to go gracias with his hands up in the air.
It was great. It was great.
It was just hilarious. Listen, I'm in the same boat you're in, Jeff, where listen, I love Sami Zayn, but I really felt that should have been Chad Gable's moment. I really felt it because I believed in it. Not when they built up the story with Sami, it was good. It was a good build up for the Intercontinental title. Nice to see that for Sami, but I really felt the way he was working, the crowd was behind Chad. They really wanted him to win that and to be the one because he had amazing matches with Gunther. Now to see him resign was great because they're like, oh, great, you get to keep a great talent like Chad Gable. But now, to your point as well, I just feel like they don't know what they have right now. I'm not saying you should make Chad Gable the man, put him in the world title picture, but this whole thing he's doing with American Made. I was going to say American Males for a second there. All my WCW fans will remember that, Monday Night Wars. But I don't know, I just feel like it's really just more of a just, hey, listen, it was great you were in that moment in that spot. Now we need you for this and do a good job, which he does a great job. I just feel to your point too, I just feel like he needs to do more than just this. He's more than just a comedy act. He garners real emotion, whether you hate him, whether you're laughing at him, or you're cheering for him. I just feel that Chad's really being underutilized right now.
He needs to be a face, and like I get why he gets put with these groups to solidify them, but obviously they've been losing, and I just think that whole Wyatt Six thing really killed his momentum. So obviously, hopefully they do something more with him, and hopefully they don't drag this out and be like, who is this? And they do a lie detector and they try to get both of them in the same. We've seen that. We've done that. I thought that was over with Vince. So obviously they're doing something here where it's very similar to the Elias thing too. And I just hope they don't drag this out, because this is not something that I want to see week in and week out here. So obviously I hope they do better by Chad Gable. So I mean, it was funny, but I don't want to see this played out week after week. All right, Logan Paul and AJ Styles. Is that something that interests you for WrestleMania? A lot of people don't want to see that, and they want to see better for AJ Styles. But this is, to me, honestly, if you really think about it, to me, this is like AJ Styles looking into a mirror 20 years ago. And I think that this could work, and I think it will work, and I think this is the match for Mania. Do you see any interest in Logan Paul versus AJ Styles at WrestleMania?
Listen, people can complain about the fact they don't like it storyline wise. I think from a match standpoint, it'd be amazing. It's awesome. Listen,
dream match.
Logan Paul, there's nobody you would want to be in the ring with than the guy like AJ Styles, who, listen, Logan has done an amazing job. I mean, man, the guy fought for the world title, like his third match in Saudi Arabia, and main evented it and did an amazing job just being, not even doing this for so long. And now to be possibly put in a ring with a guy, a veteran, a guy who's done it all in AJ Styles, he's going to make Logan look even better than he is right now. Why wouldn't you want that? And if you're a guy like AJ right now, listen, this could be the same scenario we were talking about Chad Gable too, where like, oh my, you want something more, especially knowing that the end is inevitable now for AJ Styles. He's talked about retirement. He's not afraid of it too. I just hope he's not just a gatekeeper. That's my only fear for AJ Styles. But in this particular moment right now, him and Logan makes sense, I feel, in a way. I like the story they're trying to tell here. And I think from a performance standpoint, when these two are in the ring, I think it's going to be great. It's going to be amazing. I don't think it's going to be a one-time thing. But ultimately, for Logan and AJ, if you're a hater of this, then you don't like wrestling. I think it's going to be a great match when it does eventually happen.
And then Bayley and Raquel, you have, I think Bayley, to me, is I think to her detriment, she's very giving, because this is where I would love to see Bayley go for the Intercontinental title. And I think she's just taken a lot of L's, and the crowd was not too, into this. I know they were for Liv, but again,
so what Liv was winning?
They gotta do Bayley. They gotta do right by Bayley. I think she needs to be involved.
See what Liv was wearing.
Yeah, I know, and she can't take all these L's though. I mean, they need to do something, because ever since she's gone to Raw, it's just been just falling flat for Bayley, and she's somebody that should not get lost in the mix. This is a bona fide, sure bet Hall of Famer that they need to find something better for her, and maybe to her fault, to her detriment, that she's just too giving. But Raquel Rodriguez now will fight Laya Valkyrie. I guess she becomes the number one contender for that IC title. Chelsea Green has hit a home run with her United States title run. We'll see what happens here. Maybe it'll be the one that it's the serious wrestling. But I love what Chelsea's doing with the U.S. Championship.
Jeff, does it really hurt Bayley in this situation? Do you think that it's beyond reach where she's damaging her?
It's just killing her momentum. It's just killing her momentum. I just think that it's very hard to. There's one thing she doesn't. She could lose, right? But it just kills her momentum. Ahead. It's not going to kill
momentum for what? I'm curious though. Is it momentum for the Intercontinental title, or is it momentum just
in general? Just in general, she's just, to me, stuck in this, like you said, she's stuck in this gatekeeper role. I think that's what she's doing now, and I think it's too much. And I don't think she has a problem with it, but I think they need to do right by her, because she's not. No, Becky Lynch, Charlotte Flair, and to her, and I know if Sasha was still there, they should not be gatekeepers at all. I mean, they should at no point ever be that. I know Bayley is less selfish because she wants to see the women's division strive, at her expense maybe sometimes. But I think they need to do right and just fix her momentum especially during WrestleMania season, because you'd love to see her be a part of it. And then we get Trendsetter, the steel cage match, which is obviously the meat of it, in Seth Rollins and CM Punk. A lot of people love this matchup, especially if you saw Revolution. You kind of, and you're old school traditional fan, obviously you're going to appreciate this a lot because the cage was the business, right? It was the thing. It was the weapon. And you didn't see chairs. You didn't see tables. You saw a fight. It was personal. And was it the greatest steel cage match of all time? I don't think so, but this is definitely, to me, qualifies, though, for a match of the year early candidate from WWE. So you had Roman Reigns interfere. Obviously, it looks like they're going with Roman Reigns, CM Punk, and Seth Rollins. Before we get into our WrestleMania theories and analysis, just the match in general, would you put it as the greatest steel cage match of all time? I thought it was refreshing from after what we saw at Revolution with this match, old school. But what'd you think of it in general, and what do you think about the ending?
I'll never call it the greatest steel cage match of all time, ever. I don't think it was. From a standpoint, it was a good match. The refreshing part of it was just the psychology of it as well. The main character in this whole thing, although it's the story of these two guys that have hatred for each other in CM Punk and Seth Rollins, and how much hatred and the history and all that stuff that build up towards this match, right? The steel cage was the main character in all this. Like you said, there were no steel chairs. There was no, parts of the cage that broke off that could be used as weapons. It was just basically kept in the cage, and that's what the psychology was. So sometimes simplicity is what people enjoy most because, like you said, sometimes it's a little bit refreshing. They don't have these gigantic spots that you're like, oh my God, I can't believe I just saw that. And then you look back at it like, was that really needed? Did you really need to do that? Because it meant nothing, because it didn't lead to the end of the match or the conclusion of what you're going to do. But for me, it was a good match. I liked it. In terms of the greatest of all time, I doubt it. I like how the story's building because, like you said, we can give our WrestleMania hypothesis of what's going to happen. It looks like it's leaning in that direction, but ultimately for three guys who were in the title picture last year or in that main event status, you could pit this possibly a triple threat match as a main event. But man, it's amazing how a year turns, where just weeks ago I was saying, oh, it looks like the CM Punk has so much momentum. He's going for the title. He's going after Cody. Seth, in terms of the momentum he was getting, like, you would think he'd be in the title picture at this vantage point, considering that he was injured last year's WrestleMania. And Roman, who's the most dominant champion of our time, or of our era at least, and now it doesn't seem like he's going for a title at all. It's pretty interesting dynamic here.
Listen, it's the main event. You have three bona fide Hall of Famers, three, I would say, top people in the history of WWE right now. You can bet your ass that this is going to be a main event. And I can tell you right now, this is
Roman's in it.
Of course, it's freaking Roman Reigns, CM Punk, and Seth freaking. Well, actually, not freaking anymore. It's Seth Rollins. If you look at the roster sheet, they've done a little bit of editing. So the same thing for Big Bronson Reed. Obviously, they're getting man. I'm gonna really suck. What do you call those? They're not verbs. It's not pronouns. I guess adjectives. I don't know.
That's a description.
Forgive me, my English, is un poquito no bueno. So, but they got those descriptions out, and so, anyways, I regress. I think this is your main event, and I think that I don't think the females are going to main event the show. I think that you're going to see Jey Uso and Gunther night one open. And then you're going to see the main event be the triple threat with CM Punk, Roman Reigns, and Seth Rollins, which CM Punk gets his main event. Somehow he is in the main event. It is the last match. So I think you'll see that. Who wins? And plus the stipulation. So here's the thing, guys. I wanted to. You guys, for some reason, think that Paul Heyman has control of booking and he can put CM Punk in a title match. All you people that are saying that the favor is that he's going to put CM Punk somehow in a title match, he can't do that. He can. If Roman Reigns was the champion, he could give him a title opportunity or something like that, where he tells Roman something, or maybe he becomes his he becomes on his side. But Paul Heyman can't make matches or put him in anything where he right now, if the Punk was, if the favor was like, hey, Paul, put me in the matchup between Cena and Cody Rhodes, can't do that, right? He has no power. So that favor to me is going to be either he aligns himself for that night with, with CM Punk, we see the reunion or something like that. But I just don't think I don't think Paul has the ability to put him in a championship match. It's not with Roman Reigns, right? So we'll see what happens there. But that to me, that's your main event for night one. And I do see perhaps I see the triple threat match because let's be honest, we're gonna see Rhea Ripley and Io Sky and Bianca Belair. That's gonna be a triple threat. So I'm gonna say that triple threat opens up night two, and your main event is gonna be Cody Rhodes and John Cena. What do you think about that?
I agree with it. I feel like, and I said because Roman's in it, because it's obvious Roman's in it. He's going to be in the main event, and CM Punk is finally going to live his dream of being the main event of WrestleMania. But let's be honest, guys, the main event of WrestleMania is the last night of night two, which was always Sunday. So I don't care. CM Punk fans are like, oh, he finally gets his main event. It's not for a title. It's for bragging rights. Okay, but it's night one. It is not.
Well, but here you go.
It's not the main event.
It's the
last match.
If they consider Cody in the main event last year, it's twice because they were saying he was like in the last 4 main events, like 39 and then 40, but they said 3. I'm thinking, where did you get the third from? And it's from night one of that WrestleMania. So technically, Cody Rhodes has been in 3 main events at WrestleMania where where he wasn't in 38. So obviously they're using that night one. So hey, listen, technically, if you want to take the technical, I don't believe it's a main event either. But you have 2 nights to WrestleMania, and that is your main event. So each night does have a main event. So we got to give Phil a little bit of credit there, Trendsetter, even though you obviously don't want to give him any whatsoever.
So how am I supposed to give Phil Brooks credit, Jeff, when you just admitted yourself that you don't consider WrestleMania night one as the main event as well? So you're agreeing with me, basically, saying that, okay, from a number standpoint, yeah, Cody Rhodes at this point could have 20 main events if he's main eventing night one and night two. But to me, the main event's always been, because before guys, stating my age here, WrestleMania used to be one night back in my day. And that night was a Sunday, and the last match of that card was your main event. Didn't have to be for the title. Again, I'm not saying title championship matches. It's a different debate. The last match of the card is the main event because that's what the card's built off of. I'm not saying in this because it's a different dynamic of a night one and night two. Now it's a 2-night event, right? They've completely taken the formula of Wrestle Kingdom in Japan and have made it even bigger. Credit to WWE for doing that, right? Touche. But at this point, it is not the main event. Cody was part of the main event of a storyline. Okay, I get it. I understand that. But he was the main event of WrestleMania 40 on Sunday night. So that's all I'm saying here. Listen, I've given Phil Brooks, CM Punk his flowers, Jeff. You cannot
talk about his longevity, man. Talk about, like, ever since the injury, they've put him in cages. They put him in hell in cells and elimination chambers. And he's walked out of it healthy. So let's, there's a month and a half before Mania. Keep our fingers crossed they can get to there because this is his Eleanor, right? If you're a Gone in 60 Seconds fan,
give him credit though. He's come back. He hasn't been on every single night, but the matches he's been in have been brutal. So I've given him his flowers. I've given him the credit where credit is due. I'm just saying that if he's going to main event night one, to me, it's not a main event. He hasn't fulfilled his dream because it's always, he's even said himself, it's the last match of the final night.
And of course, CM Punk has also said that, hey, now that it doesn't bother him so much and he realizes that there are multiple nights of WrestleMania, although if in AEW, he wouldn't have, you wouldn't have believed that as an excuse, but there you go. So obviously that's what I see. If guys, I actually, this is a great question to you. Is the main event still considered to you the Sunday, or now do you break it down Saturday and Sunday? So that's a great question to ask you. So put a comment below here. When the episode airs, do you believe that WrestleMania has only one main event and that's being Sunday, or now do you break it down into 2 nights, a main event on Saturday and Sunday? So there's 2 main events now for WrestleMania. Obviously, they're building it that way. Like our old school asses, we believe that there's only one night, one WrestleMania, and that's a Sunday. So we're dating ourselves, but we'll see. We want to hear from you here on the Give It a Shot Network, and hit that notification bell. Also, make sure you subscribe to the network and you download our shows and you hit that notification bell to see episodes. We're on the road to WrestleMania. So there you go. That is our predictions for what's going to happen in WrestleMania. We told you what was going on with with Raw and Steel Cage match. Was it an all-time one? No, but it was a really good match. Old school, refreshing from compared to what we saw on Sunday in AEW Revolution. Listen, I'll say this. It was not bad, the show. It's not, I don't have a gripe with it because they bust their asses. They do whatever they can to give the fans what they want. The fans were going crazy for not Okada. They're going for Ospreay and Fletcher. Kenny Omega wins the championship. I still don't know how to say it because Jim Cornette has
the international championship, isn't it?
The international championship. But Jim Cornette has brainwashed me to say his name in the way where it's not said. So, I can't even pronounce his name. So obviously, anyways, Kenny Omega becomes a new international champion. Ospreay has a great matchup, if that's what you like. Steel Cage against Fletcher. Tony Storm and Mariah May. Let's talk about that one because a lot of people are talking about match placement. And sometimes, to me, it is very important where you put these matches. Because we're talking about WrestleMania, which opens, what closes. And if you're not the closing match, you want to be the opening match, right? Because you set the tone, you set the vibe. It's very important to open the show. Sets the mood for that night. Either this match should have main evented or should have opened it up. I believe there is a possibility where it could have been, you could have put this matchup and then put a fluffer match in between, and then put the main event if you want to do Mox and Cope. I can't believe I'm calling him Cope. Just because the championship should sometimes precede everything. If not, it has to be a major story, right? I respect the fact that no one bled before that. And listen, say what you want about with the glass and all that stuff. If it goes a little bit to the extreme, fine. But they delivered. They're two of the best talents in the company. They're, to me, 1 and 1A as far as women wrestlers. Of course, Mercedes Moné, obviously, got to give her flowers. She still is a top wrestler there. So obviously, they are a top female athletes. They're the top stars, and they had a match to culminate a rivalry. I hate these trendsetters because you're telling me if there's not money to be made, they're not going to fight one again. To me, these where they say for the final time, it's not the final time in my opinion, because if there's money to be made, you put them back in another match. If you need ratings, hey, you're going to put them back in a match. So to me, when this is the final time, especially when they're in their prime, I don't believe it. I don't like to advertise it that way, but you got to give them credit though. They went above and beyond, and they should have either main evented or have been pre to the main event. Shouldn't have opened. Your thoughts on Mariah May and Tony Storm?
Well, I'm of the belief it should have been the main event. Just because to me personally, this has been the most compelling, interesting storyline buildup of the 3 matches that we've seen. This one being the final match, right? And again, I'm not a believer of that as well. I think they have to say it at times to kind of put a button on it. This is something that, again, how can I say, with movies it's different because they're trilogies. You don't want to go 4, 5, 6, but again, this is a different scenario where like the first one, the second, the third, and then some time goes by. You can always revisit this. It's always a possibility, and it's always profitable because again, these two I talked about before with Giulia and Stephanie. These two individuals, Mariah and Tony Storm, have just unique chemistry with each other. I say unique just because it's different. It's not necessarily my cup of tea in terms of the chemistry or the promos or the match itself, but it's always entertaining. It always shows a point in terms of where the story's going and where they're trying to build up to. And I think they, too much blood for my taste in terms of that. But at the end of the day, it's still, the effort was there. And I always give appreciation to all the performers, whether it be Will Ospreay, Kyle Fletcher in this scenario, or Tony Mariah May. The effort's there, and they want to tell a story their way. And so I respect that. So I thought this should be the main event, though, because this is one that everyone was talking about on the internet. Everyone was talking about from the IWC. So I think if you're going to match book or position it, it really should have been the final one, in my opinion.
MJF and Hangman Page. I thought MJF was going to win, but Hangman Page gets the victory here. And I'm just a little bit surprised that, to me, since signing that new deal, yes, MJF is rich in the pockets and he won't go hungry, and I won't feel sorry for him because he's got all the money in the world. But when it comes to MJF's character, I'm not sure that I miss the old MJF. You know what I mean? Like, he is super talented in the ring. that's not arguable. But I don't know. I think that since he's come back now, like it's so stop and start, and then we hear from MJF, and then he wrestles, he wins, but then we hear from him in it's 3 weeks of promos when he's not in the bill. It's just whether it's his scheduling or that's where he's working dates. I just think right now that MJF's momentum is not where it was once when he was red hot and he was the man in AEW.
Yeah, his momentum isn't there. It's completely gone. As they say, the rose is off the bloom, right? But
Bloom is off the rose.
Oh, the bloom's off the rose. Thank you. I stand corrected. It's something with the rose, right? But I really feel that this whole thing started, in my opinion, before he got re-signed and stuff like that. I felt just that he had done such a great job as a babyface that, hey, don't get me wrong, I think MJF is greater heel than he is a babyface, but I think they had just gone through so much effort to do that. And then he got injured. He had to have surgery to come back. And I think the way the audience felt was similar to how I felt, where like he's coming back and then, all right, he's a heel. Okay, I get it, because as usually happens when somebody takes time off, usually it's the case where they turn on the audience as opposed to you being excited to see them. But in this scenario, I really felt, honestly, Jeff, that the crowd wanted to see MJF continue as a babyface. And when you have this switch, I have this feeling they wanted to see him finish off his run as a babyface, which I don't think he had a proper send-off, because yes, the devil, Adam, we can go over the storyline on another show in terms of how that storyline was butchered in terms of Adam Cole and him being the devil and turning his back on him, and then that rivalry really never coming to a conclusion. I know they did it on TV, but regardless of that, I don't think it really happened or was done in a good way.
Please let's move on from this. So we don't need to give them any more.
Maybe just let me finish talking. I will.
Yeah.
So, because you're always the one to cut me off.
Here we go.
Rambling on, exactly. No, because Jeff never rambles on guys at all, ever.
Oh, here we go.
But I just think they wanted to continue this run, and so when they had him turn as a heel, it was just like, hey, we didn't finish what was going on here. What's going on? And I think that's when the crowd kind of lost interest in it. So, although he's a great heel, I don't think the momentum he had going for him kind of just died down, and people were just like, all right, here we go. It's the same story. It's the same shtick he's doing over and over again in terms of just being really insulting to the audience. So that's where I feel like they kind of made the mistake with MJF.
Why does Hangman cut his hair? I mean, I don't get that either. It really makes no sense. But again, though, too, I think the fans,
the storylines you're complaining about hair. Are you serious?
It just bothers me. Anyways, the thing that
terrible dry. It looks like a mop on his head.
The thing I got to say about MJF is that I always thought that they knew that he was going to turn on Adam Cole, and the reverse was going to be, Adam Cole turning on MJF. But I don't think the fans now will ever believe that MJF would ever be a good guy. I think he will never be. They'll never believe 100% in him as a babyface because of all that they've done with MJF. I don't think he could ever be a face in AEW because they're just going to wait. They're waiting for that when we see MJF. And I think there's nothing wrong with that. I think you can go as a heel all your life, fine. But I think there's no way that MJF could be a baby face anytime soon in AEW. So a little surprised.
Do you feel like he just reverted back to his old heel tendencies, and that's kind of getting boring, do you feel, with MJF?
Yeah, because it's, I don't know. I thought that this rivalry with Hangman Page would have, lit a spark back in the interest with MJF. So I thought that him winning would have been ideal. So I don't know now where they turn with MJF here. It's not a bad a dilemma, but you kind of want him to get back on pace here because he should be in the main. See, to me, MJF needs to be in the main event. Why he's not going after Mox? Why he's not in that picture? I don't understand. That's to me where they're not hitting it with MJF because as long as he's signed, I would, if I knew I had him locked up, boom, I'd put him in the main event right away. Okay, if you want to get a Adam Cole thing going on for a little bit, fine, but put him back in the main event for God's sakes. That's what you got to do. That's where he belongs. All right, here's where it takes a turn where I think that this is why AEW, while they do good matches, look, Ospreay and Fletcher was it for the fourth time. Was there ever a title? Ever? I think there was, right? One of them was for a title, and I could be wrong. Anyways, 4 times already. how much more can they do? They're probably ends the rivalry for now. But these are guys that you think are going to be in the company for another 5-6 years, right? What more can they do? What more can they do to surpass that steel cage match? Obviously, if you wait before you have their next matchup, maybe that's what you need. But what more can they do? What seriously more can they do? The
Buried alive
blood,
match.
huh?
Buried alive match.
The blood was okay, but and I don't understand what the thing is about drinking or eating somebody's blood that they have a fetish for. It's disgusting. It makes no sense. But this is where I get out of it. Congratulations, Will Ospreay. You're amazing. You're in the top 5 of wrestlers in the world. And if you want to say you're the best, you are the best. Mr. 5-star match, 47 of them. Congratulations. Kyle Fletcher, to me, you're very talented. And I could see you being the future of a wrestling company. But in the aspect of as far as the business, this is where AEW just doesn't get it, because they cater to the 12,000 fans that were in LA. But if I'm watching this, they will never go to that next level because all their events are like that. And they're just the same thing. It's the wrestling. It needs to be more than that. And so that's why they're going to be stuck in this niche. And if they're okay with that, then fine. But you're not expanding your business. You're not expanding your company. You want it to reach out to other people, and it's not. It really is not. Mercedes Moné retains her championship as we knew she would. And the main event, Cope and Mox, my God. Whatever I thought it was going to be a hit when Edge left and Cope left. It's not. I have my stance on whether he stands all time as a wrestler too has really dwindled down. And as far as Mox goes, when I thought he was with the Shield in the early days, I was telling you, Trendsetter, oh, this is the guy. This is the guy that's holding it all together. And at one point, he did in the very early start, but I've never seen a more regression, or when you let somebody, give their ideas, which hasn't worked over and over and over. Look at the Blackpool Combat Club. It sucked. This Death Riders is killing them, but he's got in Tony's ear that this is the thing. How the hell does that main event make any sense to you? It doesn't. And now, I don't want to see that again. I don't want to see them pushed again. And as soon as Swerve can, I would put the title on Swerve, because they have to move away from this, because it is totally unwatchable. And Mox, you are without a doubt part of the 2 worst factions in wrestling that I've ever seen in my life, in the Blackpool Combat Club and the Death Riders. Without a doubt, it is your promos are nonsensical. You're not entertaining, and I just flip the channel. And for Cope, listen, I hope if you're happy, all power to you. You've done so much for the business, but man, has the quality of wrestling digressed with these two. I mean, Edge, I'm glad they sing your songs, but once the bell rings, nothing's happening. Your thoughts on the main event?
Not much more I could say after that rant. So I'll just leave it at this. Just real quick, one sidetrack here. I will be quick on this, Jeff. I promise.
Oh man,
Kyle Fletcher, Will Ospreay. Nobody's listening to you anyway, Jeff.
I just like Adam
when you were talking.
I just don't like Adam Cole. Sorry.
Okay, cool. But the whole Kyle Fletcher, Will Ospreay. Who needed that match more? Kyle Fletcher. What service do you do to him by having him beat the way he was beat? I don't think he's even got one win off of Will Ospreay. Will didn't need that. Kyle Fletcher did, because if you're going to build more stars, because Will Ospreay's already a star, Kyle needed that win. This main event here, again, it was what it was. I wasn't expecting anything from this. I wasn't expecting it to be one of the most memorable matches of all time. You basically had 2 WWE guys fighting for your championship on AEW television. That's what it was. 2 WWE guys for the AEW title. MJF, he's opening the card. Okay. Swerve Strickland. Now he's the number 1 contender. I get it. But, honestly, this is where the frustration lies for me with AEW, right? There's so many things we can add to the list. You mentioned a whole bunch of them, right? But if I am building this company, I need my guys like an MJF, a Swerve Strickland. I'll even go by far seeing an Orange Cassidy to a certain extent. But you need to highlight these.
Wow.
I know I'm going on a limb here, but Jeff, they are guys that when you look at them, you think AEW because they're representing the company. When you think of Edge, Moxley, you think of again.
And not that I have Darby Allin withdrawal syndrome, but where the hell is he? Is he really climbing
I
Mount
don't
Everest?
care. Maybe he's still climbing the mountain, I think. But honestly, you have WWE guys as your focal point. They should be getting your talent and your stars in AEW to a higher level. They don't need to be the stars, in my opinion. And that's the frustration I have with AEW sometimes. It's like, I get it. I understand it. It's an ability for Adam Copeland right now to have this resurgence of the last chapter of his career. But right now, it's not really doing anybody service. Like, do we really need Wheeler Yuta to be elevated, to have shake his hand and give him the respect because storyline makes no sense and what you're doing that for? So, if there's anybody else other than Darby Allin that Jeff despises more, it's Wheeler Yuta.
Oh, God. And it's not that Jim Cornette's poisoning my mind. It's just it's like, man, like what do you see in Wheeler Yuta? What do you see? And then in Jay White, I was the biggest fan of Jay White, and you knocked me off of the Jay White bandwagon, which you were totally 100% right. He showed, and then Christian Cage, nobody wanted to see him cash that in, and then for him to get choked, it was just. And then the icing on the cake, trendsetter, the icing on the cake, which you have to talk about, because now with a couple of days that have passed, it's kind of cleared up a little bit that what this actress from Queen of the Ring, which obviously Queen of the Ring is tanked in the box office, by the way. She came on. They talked to the director, and he made the mistake of saying, "Oh, I've talked enough. Let me throw it to the girls." And they had one, and they passed it off to Damaris Lewis. And she said, let me get what's one thing that you take out of the movie? And she goes, now, let me see if this can be misconstrued or the way I took it. Because Camille, who breaks her silence on this, but we haven't seen, she's been MIA in the Witness Protection Program in AEW, but she cleared it up. But how do you take this? Wrestlers know they're going to win before everybody else does. Okay? If for that one moment, though, if it's just what you learned from the whole experience, is there a better way to say that? What did you think she meant? I took it as like, hey, listen, so they know that they're gonna win. So like, okay, after we saw Ospreay and Kyle Fletcher bust their ass, bleed for you guys, Ospreay knew he was gonna win anyways. That's what I took it as, and I don't feel sorry, or I'm not going to apologize because that's what I felt at the time. That's what everybody felt at the time. You heard the groans. You even heard the groans supposedly backstage. You're like, oh, and then okay, maybe in a couple of days, right? I'm like, oh, maybe that's not what she meant. I don't know her. Maybe obviously you would think she'd have respect for the business after taking bumps and being, and doing this movie. Or you'd have some kind of, even if it was phony respect, but for you to say that and be your first thing you think of, what was your experience? I would have been like, man, these wrestlers really sacrificed their body. Wouldn't that be like, even if I didn't know, like, man, these guys bumped their asses for you guys and they bust their bodies for you, the fan. And then but to say that's the first thing you think of, even if you try to meant, hey, that they're winners before even. I guess I can get it, but at that point, no one's getting it. Everyone's taking it the way that we heard it that night. Your thoughts?
Yeah, two things. The fact that comment made absolutely no sense to say at that time, because like you said, if that's the first thing you think of, then first of all, I blame the director more than anything, because like, why would you let them talk if you kind of like, don't trust it?
Because I'm sure that he had I'm sure that like him, like us, she's not going to say anything bad. She's going to be I'm having a good, even if she was high out of her mind, she'd be like, oh, all I know is the wrestlers have a good time or something like that. But like to say
to me, it's still the director's responsibility. Why are you going to do that? You want to promote your event, but hey, you're promoting it. You're doing a great job. When you leave it to that scenario, you always have that probability that individuals who don't understand it, like I'm not saying he could anticipate it, but you're leaving yourself open for that to possibly happen, which it did. And for that comment to come out, same reaction there. I'm like, my first reaction wasn't like you were annoyed with the comment. It was more like, really? That's all you got to say? You know you're going to win before you, like, what the hell? To your point, you can't say in terms of sacrificing your bodies, the athleticism, the amazing storytelling. You can say those comments, or the amazing fans that wrestling have, the loyal fans out there. You guys follow and are die hardcore. You can say you make that comment, despite the way what she interpreted it today, and she meant to say it in a certain way. That's her fault for not being able to say. You're an actor. Your job is to project communications to what you're saying as an actor to the audience, and you can't even say something in a press conference. And I go back to the fact that when the Iron Claw came out, all those actors that portrayed the brothers did an amazing job admitting that they didn't understand it, but they respected it and they admired it and they appreciated the hard work that goes into do it. So that's all you needed to say. So at the end of the day, I just shake my head because I'm like, here we go. Another individual who doesn't understand what they do in terms of the business is making comments and shouldn't be talking for the sake of talking. Because listen, if she was the one promoting the movie during that media junket circuit, it's probably another reason why the movie bombed and tanked. I haven't seen it. I'm not going to speculate on how bad the movie was. I haven't seen it. I don't plan on ever seeing it. But at the end of the day, there's a way of presenting yourself in a way, whether you're portraying a football player, a famous actor, a famous political figure. There's a certain level of respect you go in when you start promoting and talking about it. And when you say a dumb comment like that, you deserve to get the scrutiny for it, in my opinion. I don't care how Camille tried to make it sound out. That's not how it was interpreted. So don't defend her. She is responsible for her the way she talks.
I haven't seen her backtrack. I haven't seen her be like, oh, I said this, and I haven't seen her tweet that out or
she doesn't care.
No, and again, though, if we have to dissect what you said, then you didn't communicate it properly, and it shouldn't have been said. And so if you tried to say it in a way where like, okay, oh, that's what you meant, you should have never said it. And that's, to me, is like, wow. And the fact that you're promoting Queen of the Ring and that you have you're kind of shitting on the product when you had Mariah May and Toni Storm give their bodies, and hey, Toni Storm knew she was going to win anyway, so F that, like it was really it was really puzzling to me. I mean, and obviously it caused a groan, and I had to look back at it, and it was cringe. It was totally cringe. The fans who are diehards, those are the fans that's the fans that they target. They obviously, maybe in WWE you get away with it and you do a laugh because they're not pro wrestling, they're storytelling, right? Mm-hmm. But if you're in AEW where the wrestling is what matters and you have diehards there, that is the biggest. That is a huge insult to everyone that paid their money at the cryptocurrency arena in LA.
Paid their money, but the performers in the back that are performing from the audience
obviously got groans and them. Yeah, so we'll see. And I have no intention to see Queen of the Ring either. So obviously, if it shows up on Netflix or something like that, I might take a look. But seriously, not the best way to promote or to give credit to the wrestling fans that are there. All right, Trent, I think we did a great job recapping Revolution, Raw, obviously Roadblock, obviously. And listen, and Cody Rhodes and John Cena, man, they're going to be in the same building. We got great promos from Cody Rhodes. He's got to carry this on his own now. And now he's going to finally get a chance to be with John Cena. We'll see what happens as they're on the European tour now. The first stop is Brussels, Belgium. So that's going to be interesting. Monday Night Raw will actually be on at 3:00 p.m. So they have the ability now of Netflix that, hey, listen, that, hey, you want to air it at 3 p.m., no tape delay? We're going to do it. So that's going to be great. So 3 p.m. for Monday Night Raw, they're going to be, they're going to be in the European tour. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens between John Cena and Cody Rhodes. We're on the road to WrestleMania, Trendsetter. We'll talk about Dynamite. We'll talk about Friday Night SmackDown. We'll talk about everything in pro wrestling this weekend. But I just want to say, guys, I want to thank you for joining us. Make sure you follow us on all our social media at High Spot Podcast. Make sure that you also subscribe and download all our podcasts too, because we're available in podcast platforms. And again, follow us here on the Give Us a Shot Network. Like and subscribe and hit that notification bell. Trendsetter, wrap us up, brother.
Guys, thank you so much for listening to this episode of the High Spot Podcast from my tag team partner, Jeff Martin. I'm the Trendsetter, Brian Berga. We are on the road to WrestleMania, and we enjoy it with you guys in the process because we do this for one reason and one reason only. We do this for you, the crew.